Imagine for a second that we could tear a hole through time. On one side, we have a modern-day fitness influencer, a physical specimen sculpted by scientific periodization, premium whey isolate, and air-conditioned recovery suites. On the other side, we have a secutor from the 1st century, a man who lives on barley, sleeps on straw, and spends his days preparing for the very real possibility of a spear through the chest. If you put these two in a room and ask them to move a 500-pound rock or fight to the death, who actually walks out? We love to romanticize the ancient world, but we also live in the golden age of sports science. So today, we are stripping away the Hollywood filters and the Instagram lighting to find out who was actually stronger. And the answer might make every gym rat watching this feel a little bit insecure about their 300-pound bench press. Before we get into the heavy lifting, we have to address the biggest lie you have ever been told about gladiators. If you look at movies like Gladiator or 300, these guys are all shredded. They have 8-packs and 0 body fat. But according to the forensic evidence found in a mass grave in Ephesus, that is almost certainly a myth. Scientists analyzed the bones of over 60 gladiators and found something shocking. These men were known as horderii, which literally translates to barley men. They were carb-loading on a massive scale. They were thick, bulky, and covered in a layer of subcutaneous fat. This fat was not a sign of being out of shape. It was a tactical advantage. It acted as a natural shield, protecting their vital organs and arteries from shallow surface cuts. While the modern gym rat is chasing a 4% body fat percentage for a photo shoot, the gladiator was cultivating a protective layer that kept him in the fight. But does more body fat mean less strength? Not necessarily. Think about modern strongmen. They do not look like bodybuilders. They look like refrigerators. And that is exactly where the gladiator sits in the hierarchy of power. Now let us look at the training. The modern athlete has access to progressive overload, cable machines, and the perfect biomechanical path for every muscle group. We know exactly how to target the long head of the tricep. The gladiator, however, lived in a world of functional brutality. Their primary training tool was the paulus, a heavy wooden post buried in the ground. They would spend hours every single day striking this post with weapons that were significantly heavier than the ones they used in the arena. This created a level of rotational power and grip strength that is almost impossible to replicate in a standard commercial gym. When you spend 6 hours a day swinging a lead-weighted sword against a solid oak post, your tendons and ligaments become like steel cables. And this is a key differentiator. Modern gym training focuses heavily on muscle hypertrophy, but the gladiator was building bone density and connective tissue resilience that would make a modern orthopedic surgeon weep with joy. Speaking of bones, the Ephesus study revealed something incredible about the gladiators' mineral intake. By analyzing the elemental composition of their skeletons, researchers found that gladiators had significantly higher levels of strontium and calcium compared to the general population. Why? Because they were drinking an ancient version of a post-workout shake. They would take the charred remains of plants and wood ash and mix it into water or vinegar. It sounds disgusting, but it was essentially a highly bioavailable calcium supplement. This resulted in bone density that was off the charts. If a modern gym rat and a gladiator collided, the gym rat might have bigger biceps, but the gladiator would have a skeleton that was essentially reinforced concrete. But let us give some credit to the modern era. We have something the Romans did not: the science of recovery. We understand the central nervous system. We understand that training to failure every single day is a recipe for burnout and injury. The gladiator was essentially a slave to his training. He did not have deload weeks. He did not have massage guns or cryotherapy. He had a massage from a fellow slave and maybe a hot bath if he was lucky. This meant that while the gladiator was tough as nails, he was likely constantly dealing with chronic inflammation and microfractures that never fully healed. In a one-off test of raw power, like a deadlift or a bench press, the modern gym rat might actually have the edge. Why? Because the modern gym rat has optimized his body for that specific movement. Strength is a skill, and we have perfected the skill of moving heavy iron in a straight line. But here is the catch. Strength in the arena is not about a straight line. It is about chaos. It is about a three-dimensional struggle where every muscle is firing at once to keep you from being pinned to the ground. This is where the modern athlete might struggle. Unless they are training in high-level MMA or wrestling, most gym rats have what we call non-functional strength. They are strong in the rack, but weak in the world. The gladiator's strength was forged in the furnace of survival. If he was not strong enough to hold his shield up for 20 minutes, he died. That is a level of motivation that no pre-workout supplement can ever replicate. Let's talk about the psychological aspect, because strength starts in the brain. A modern lifter might get a shot of adrenaline before a heavy set. They have their favorite metal track playing in their headphones, and they have a spotter making sure they don't get hurt. The gladiator's adrenaline was on a different level. He was performing in front of 50,000 people who were actively screaming for his blood. His brain was conditioned to operate under the highest possible level of cortisol and adrenaline. This creates a phenomenon called hysterical strength. You have heard of mothers lifting cars off their children? That was the Gladiator's Tuesday. They were able to tap into their motor units with a level of intensity that a modern person simply cannot reach without a life or death trigger. If we look at the actual physics of their weapons, the strength required is staggering. A standard Roman scutum or shield weighed about 20 pounds. Holding that out at arm's length for an entire afternoon, while wearing 30 pounds of armor and dodging a trident, is a feat of muscular endurance that would leave most modern CrossFitters gasping for air. The Gladiator was a master of the isometric hold. His core was not just for show, it was a pressurized tank that allowed him to move with explosive power, despite the heavy gear. So if we look at the metrics, who wins? In a classic powerlifting meet, the modern gym rat wins every time. Our understanding of leverage, supplementation, and peak performance is just too advanced. We are taller, we are generally heavier, and we have better fuel. But if the contest is shifted just slightly toward real-world application, the gladiator begins to dominate. If the test is to carry a 100-pound load for 10 miles, then fight an opponent, then build a fortification, the gladiator wins. If the test is bone density and the ability to absorb a blunt force impact to the ribs, the gladiator wins. They were built for durability, not for a mirror. What is fascinating is that we are starting to see a shift in modern fitness back toward these ancient principles. The rise of strongman training, the use of sandbags, the focus on odd lifts, and the obsession with grip strength are all attempts to reclaim that barley man power. We are realizing that having a big chest doesn't mean much if your joints are made of glass. The gladiator was the ultimate proof that the human body adapts to the demands placed upon it. Their demand was survival, and their body responded by turning into a thick, ash-fortified tank. So the next time you're in the gym and you're worried about your abs disappearing because you ate a few too many carbs, just remember the Horderi. They were the most feared warriors of their time, and they did it with a thick waist and a diet of grains. Strength is more than just a number on a barbell or a visible serratus muscle. It is the ability to endure, to resist, and to overcome the environment you are placed in. The modern gym rat is a masterpiece of biological engineering, but the ancient gladiator was a masterpiece of biological necessity. One was built to look like a god, the other was built to stay alive in a world that wanted him dead. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the physiology of the ancient world, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are going to be breaking down more historical versus modern comparisons, from Viking berserkers to samurai. Also, let me know in the comments, if you had to go through a gladiator training camp for 1 month, do you think your modern body could handle it? Or would you crumble under the weight of the wooden post? Stay strong, and I will see you in the next one.